So, we just got home from watching Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the movie. Yeah, we got these nice popcorn buckets. We filmed a little video outside the theater, which you probably just watched, because I planned to edit it all together in one thing. But we had some further thoughts about the movie after walking home and processing it a little bit.
God, these things costed... Yeah. These things costed me $50.
Worth every penny. One day, my firstborn will look up at me as he makes a sandcastle with this and say, Daddy, what's a Five Nights at Freddy's 2? And I'll be like, sit down, son. I have a long, long story to tell you. And it all started with a beaver. One of the things I said straight out of the movie is it'll grow on me, and it already has. And we've barely even been out of the movie for that long. I think it's just that the movie's a little anticlimactic, so that's the feeling it left us with. So we walked away a little bit more unsatisfied than we probably should have been, because now that we've had some time to process it, we realized, holy crap, that movie answered a lot. But I still stand by what I said. I still think it should have been longer, and I still think they should make 6 of these and not 3. But let's discuss some of our thoughts. And the first thing I want to bring up is this whole Michael Afton thing, because that's what we talked about the most. So, listen. The Five Nights at Freddy's fandom has come to a theory consensus over the past several years. And every time the FNaF fandom comes to a consensus on basically saying a theory that's gotten really popular is basically canon and accepting it as canon, even though there's very little directly confirming it. I warn them, I try to tell them, I say, hey, don't do this. But do they listen? No. The only Five Nights at Freddy's fans who are capable of listening are the ones who played FNaF 4. That's a little joke for any of you who've played the game. Like most Five Nights at Freddy's theories that are wrong, it was invented and popularized by MatPat. It's basically the theory that in all of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, you play as Michael Afton, who is some sort of benevolent force who wants to avenge his siblings, or something along those lines. He wants to go, really stick it to his dad, his evil dad, Willie, and burn it all to the ground. And the fandom has really taken this theory and run with it, and done this annoying thing they like to do, where they take something that's not really proven at all and start asserting it like it's canon, and like it's fact. And like I said, every time they do this, I try to warn them, hey, maybe you shouldn't get too attached to this, because the thing about the Five Nights at Freddy's fandom is that they make these theories, and then when their theories are wrong, they've gotten so attached to their mental... all fandoms do this. The Mario fandom is also very guilty of this. They make up their own headcanon, basically, their own theory or whatever. A certain theory gets popular in the community, and then when it turns out, hey, that theory, as a matter of fact, is not correct, they've gotten so attached to their own headcanon that they've formed around this theory that they refuse to accept it. They cannot cope with the idea that this thing which they've basically just assumed is true is not actually true.
And that is why Scott didn't open the box.
That's also why there are still people to this day who will tell you with a straight face that Dream Theory was totally real and that Scott retconned it, even though Scott's basically said that he didn't do that, and pretty much laughed at Dream Theory several times, once in UCN and once in the movie. So I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that this movie is going to get a lot of people angry. This whole theory about Mike being this benevolent force and you playing as him in all the games, I'm talking about Michael Afton, not Josh Hutcherson Mike, has just been thoroughly debunked. This movie has just made very clear, yeah, that ain't it, Chief. And that's going to make some fans very, very angry. And I think that's going to make some fans so angry that they will probably say the movie was trash. Or they will try desperately to say, no, it's not canon, guys.
More specifically, what they'll try to do is they're going to do exactly what they did with the books and
box it off and
push it off to its own canonical timeline.
To be fair,
instance of canon.
To be fair, I support that with the books, because the books have the books are clearly a different continuity, because some things directly conflict. But the books also have a lot of really weird, bad stuff in it that I don't think should be in the canon, because that would be stupid. Like robot humans, for example. We don't want that in our Five Nights at Freddy's. Please stop doing it, Scott. So, and this movie, this is the one thing that we were talking about. You know what this movie gave us? Answers. That is the most valuable thing about this movie. So many questions, such long-running questions, answered by this movie. One of the biggest ones, obviously, is the whole DCI-MCI debate. We don't need to have that debate anymore because this movie makes it clear. Neither are correct.
And Jamie, just for the people watching this video who are unfortunately devoid of being well-versed lore and watching it anyways...
You want me to explain MCI versus DCI?
Elongate the... just for those of them
Okay, well, I'm going to make this brief. MCI stands for Missing Children's Incident. It refers to the newspaper clippings in the first Five Nights at Freddy's games that talks about 5 children who went missing, which are, of course, the ones haunting the first Five Nights at Freddy's games. DCI stands for Dead Children Incident, which is literally just, basically, William Afton killed another group of kids, and they're the ones who haunt the FNaF 2 animatronics. That's the theory. People argue all the time about whether the toys are possessed, or if they're just, you know, acting weird, I guess, glitching out, which makes no sense, but people believe it. Was there a second set of murder, or wasn't there a second set of murder? Well, now we know for sure. We have confirmed what I would like to call puppet master theory, which is basically the idea that the marionette controls all of them. The marionette is the only ghost in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, as Vanessa outright says in the movie. And the marionette controls the toy animatronics and the withered animatronics and the marionette animatronic. It controls all of them. Plus, there was the realization that I had in real time that you were like, oh yeah, crap, oh yeah, that is true, which is, the whole puppet master theory seems to be corroborated by the fact, you were like, oh yeah, I find it weird that that the puppet would be so willing to collaborate with Michael and, like, you know, follow his orders and stuff. And we've all been under this assumption, obviously, that the puppet is vengeful towards William Afton, but this movie overtly tells you that no, she's not. She doesn't care about William Afton. She's just vengeful in general at adults. That lines up because in the FNaF 2 phone call, this is what I pointed out to you that gave you a moment of realization. This lines up with what phone guy says in FNaF 2, that he says the characters are fine around kids, but with grown-ups they just stare, right? It makes complete sense in the context of what this movie just told us. So I think Golden Freddy is vengeful towards William Afton, and the puppet is completely indifferent towards William Afton, or maybe under William's spell like the rest of them are. And the puppet just is angry and just wants to kill adults. That's basically the puppet's purpose. That seems to pretty much be what this is suggesting. So yeah, this whole idea that, like, oh, Michael Afton is the player in all of the Five Nights at Freddy's games. You play as Michael from 1 all the way to, not UCN, all the way to Five Nights at Freddy's 6. And Mike is setting things right. No, that's not true. And I told this guy a long time ago, I said, everybody's taking this and running with it and talking about it like it's just confirmed at this point. And that's a really bad idea, because I have a gut feeling that this theory is probably not true, and it's just one of those things that sounds really good in a game theory video, but doesn't really make sense if you think about it. And that's pretty much confirmed. In this movie, Michael Afton is a comic book villain, pretty much, and he talks with an evil grin about continuing his father's legacy. I think it's safe to say that...
He also said with a smile, half of this town will be dead by sunrise.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say that Mikey Afton is not the hero that everybody's making.
This ain't a benevolent force. This
is William Afton's son. Gee, who'd have thought? So when in Sister Location, when he says, "Father, I'm coming to come find you," no, Matt Pat, that wasn't a revengeful statement. He really is just trying to please his father. I mean, that does leave some room open for interpretations as to who you actually are playing in the games. The one thing that this really did for me is it made me question, is Scraptrap even William? Because, just think about this for a moment, okay? The voice actor for Afton in FNaF 6 is the same voice actor that did the Michael It's Me monologue. Now granted, he also overtly played Springtrap in FNaF AR, so that alone isn't enough to go off of. And he also did it in Dead by Daylight. But, you know, I think the thing that really convinced most of us, yeah, this has got to be William, is he says, "You may not recognize me, but I assure you it's still me." Right? So all of us thought, okay, that's basically Scott's way of saying, look, guys, he looks a little different, but it is Springtrap. But now that's really thrown into question for me, because he does look pretty different from Springtrap, and now that we've established that Mikey Afton is, in fact, like, obsessed with continuing his father's legacy, it makes sense that he would say things like that. It makes sense that he would want to go into a springlock suit just like his father, and he would want to say, I always come back just like his father.
I just recognized something in real time.
Yeah? What is it?
Remember how Baby or Elizabeth, reacts towards her father of, like, constantly vying for his approval?
Yeah.
We saw similar patterns with Mike in the movie, and, the movie kind of outright confirms this. William just raises his children specifically to be...
underlings.
Yeah.
To do his bidding. Pretty much.
Basically just psychopaths that would do anything for his approval.
Well, he's a really manipulative guy. He tries to... That's like Vanessa's whole character arc here, is trying to explain, William's a really, really bad guy, and he tries to, like, shape his kids into something. Oh boy, is this fandom ever gonna be angry at this sheer amount of popular... Listen, kids, let this be a lesson, alright, my fellow Five Nights at Freddy's fans. Do not get too attached to your fan theories. Okay? Do not... I know Matt Pat, he's very charismatic. He can dominate a room, but that doesn't mean he's right. In fact, most of the time he's wrong. Almost every theory he's made has been proven wrong. Do not get too attached to your headcanons, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Do not get too attached to your fan theories, because they are probably wrong, and you're going to get really salty when they're confirmed wrong, and then you're not going to enjoy the series as much, and then you're going to make a discourse for everyone else who still likes the series awful. You can maybe tell by the way I'm talking that I've seen this play out in real time. So guys, when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's, keep an open mind. Alright? That's the message. I have two messages I'm trying to get across here. Number one, make 6 movies, not 3. Number 2, keep an open mind when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's. Do not get too attached to your fan theories, because they're probably wrong, or, maybe they're right, but there's a solid chance they're wrong. The whole community basically came, and this is your mess, I wasn't a part of this, but a majority of the community basically came to this weird, unspoken consensus that I don't remember signing on to, that this whole Mike theory was true, this whole Michael Afton theory was totally the narrative they're trying to set. Well, that ain't true. We know for sure now that that definitely is not what the story being told in these games is, because that is so ridiculously out of character from what we were shown in this movie, it just doesn't make sense. And the same thing goes for the whole DCI-MCA debate. Turns out none of you were right. It's just the puppet master theory. It's just the marionette controlling everyone, and it lines up. And I guess, it makes sense that nobody would have really thought that, because there's nothing in the game that would have overtly suggested that. The whole dynamic between him and Vanessa is basically what Vanessa's trying to avoid Michael Afton, ends up being. It's worth noting that Prime Child is probably in the movie universe, because in the behind-the-scenes video that Dawko uploaded on the set, you can see Afton's family photos, and you can see a younger male child, as well as Vanessa and Michael, in these photos. Now, interestingly, the only female child, at least as far as I remember, that were in these photos is Vanessa. So, and I brought this up with him on the walk home, is like, is Vanessa supposed to, are these movies trying to suggest Vanessa equals Elizabeth? And the whole circus baby randomly showing up in a Vanessa nightmare kind of seems to corroborate that possibility. But then Colin pointed out a very important detail, which is...
Baby in the nightmare sequence does already have green eyes. What we do know in the games, Baby only received green eyes after Elizabeth had died.
Yeah, basically, Baby possessed, or Baby killed Elizabeth, and then Elizabeth possessed Baby. And then Baby went from having blue eyes, which she does in the minigame, to having green eyes. So her already having green eyes in the movie sequence seems to suggest that Elizabeth existed, already died, and is inside Baby. Which then would make sense why she's so terrified of Baby. It does raise questions, because why isn't she in the pictures? I'm really, again, on my mind really, I can't stress this enough. Please, for the love of God, Scott, do not try to cram all of this into 3 movies. Please, please, I'm begging you, make 6 movies, tell this story properly. I know, 6 movies sounds like a big commitment, but that is the only way to tell this story properly without rushing it and butchering it. Oh, and Shadow Bonnie was in this movie. Sorry, I know that's random. That was so cool. I'm really glad that happened.
Yeah, it was exactly for like one frame, maybe a couple more. If you look quick enough, you can see it.
Alright, so.
When Mike is starting up his little scene in the office.
And that's a really good little Easter egg for fans. We got to see Peace and Rest for the original MCI kids. Really neat. I also think it's interesting to note, is FNaF 3 good ending canon? Because this movie says, and you know, this movie tells us Golden Freddy going to heaven and being at rest equals Springtrap can come out. So does that mean that in FNaF 3, the good ending has happened already by the time you start your night shifts? Because otherwise, how would Springtrap be able to move? Golden Freddy in this movie directly says, you know, without me around, I can't keep him there. He's going to come back and he's going to be stronger. So, are we supposed to believe then in FNaF 3 that then that's already happened? This is the most answers we've ever had in Five Nights at Freddy's history. Dude, I'm already so excited to see this movie again. I am already so excited to see this movie again.
And maybe you'll see something we didn't see this time around.
Yeah, I was saying outside, it was like, maybe, damn, that was cold, Mike. That was maybe not the correct moral decision to make, Mike. But it makes sense. That's probably what would happen in real life, right? It's like, I mean, if you put yourself in this guy's shoes, yeah, maybe you would be just a little freaked out and overwhelmed by that to the point where you say, you know, maybe just stay away from me. Maybe just get the hell away from me. But it's really sad and it's really tragic because you see the way that she tries to fight the whole Afton curse, I guess, and she does a really good job. She overpowers it, and then he abandons her. And she just doesn't know what to do. She's so broken. And it's really depressing. It's really sad.
Try that.
Use it.
Okay, I guess.
You feeling it? Oh, you're feeling it, aren't you? That movie raised some questions, but I think it answered more things than questions it raised, which is good. The biggest question that movie raised for me, other than how are we going to make clear that you need not to stop at 3 movies here, the biggest question that movie raised for me is Scrap Trap William or is Scrap Trap Michael? Because I am now convinced that there's a non-zero chance that maybe we've been wrong this whole time about Scrap Trap.
It's back again, baby. Will Trap versus Mike Trap is back.
It's back! It's back! Let's go!
Back, baby.
It's back! Oh yeah, I can't wait to have that debate.
Here's
again.
your debate fuel.
Oh,
Get
man.
your little debate guns.
Here we go. Time for the Flame Wars to start. As if this movie isn't already going to start 10 Flame Wars by taking the most popular theories and completely destroying them piece by piece.
And now we're bringing an old discourse right back, baby.
Oh yeah.
Mike Trap versus Will Trap. Let's go. Except rather than Springtrap being the subject matter, it's going to be Scrap Trap.
Yeah, no, that's completely made me consider that. I had considered that before, but what really got me to go, no, it's probably William, is when he says, you know, you may not recognize me at first, but I assure you it's still me. You hear that and you think, okay, well, that's Springtrap then. Duh, no question, no debate. But now when you put it into context that Michael Afton is like a crazed lunatic who wants to continue his father's legacy, and Scrap Trap looks so remarkably different when in all other times that Springtrap or Spring Bonnie is shown, it maintains the original resemblance. Hi, while editing I realized I forgot to mention that another thing that supports this is the fact that in UCN, Scrap Trap is labeled as just Afton. Not specifically William Afton, just Afton. I feel like that's gotta be intentional. Just throwing it out there. it really throws it into question, doesn't it? It really throws into question, is that even the same guy, or is that his son trying to continue the legacy?
Which then leads you to need to wonder who you're playing as in Pizzeria Simulator. Because you are actively told it is someone that found the job listing that was not meant for them, but Henry has a feeling that that person is exactly where they want to be.
I do feel like that could just be left ambiguous on purpose. Like the player is just kind of left as a self-insert character. I do feel like that's the type of thing Scott would do, is just be like, yeah, that doesn't really need to be answered. We can just leave, let the player insert themselves into that role so they can be the hero, right?
I suppose that would be a viable option.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think the more we've talked about it, the more the movie has grown on me, even though I haven't even seen it a second time yet. And usually, when I come out of a movie a little underwhelmed, it takes me at least watching it again to start to like it more than I did when I walked out of the theater. But now that I've really replayed it in my head and thought about how much that movie had to offer, it's already growing on me. And I'll tell you this much, okay? I want to end off by saying this. That opening scene was the best part of the whole movie. And I'm not saying that to diss the rest of the movie, as much as it probably sounds like that, because you hear that and you go, "Aw, that's a shame. No movie should have the best scene in it be the opening scene. That means it just goes downhill." I'm not saying that to diss the entire rest of the movie. I'm saying that because holy crap, that opening scene brought me to tears. That was probably the best opening scene I've seen in any movie ever. Was just so tragic and beautifully made. My goodness. Perfect. Just perfect opening scene. Way better than the opening scene of the first movie. You know what? I was going to write Markiplier down on the prediction list, and he didn't show up. But that would have been an easy one to cross off, huh? Yeah, the opening scene in this movie, holy crap, that opening scene is perfect. Perfect. Everything. The suspense, the tension, the cinematography, alright, the directorial work. Holy crap, Emma Tammy. Really outdoing yourself. Just the way the story was told and the pacing of it all. That opening scene could be a short film in and of itself. That opening scene was easily the best part of the movie. I wish it wasn't the best part of the movie, but it easily is. It was just so good. That was just such an amazing opening scene. You know why it was so good? Because you spent so much time on it. You see what I'm getting at? Make these movies longer, okay? You need to make them longer, and you need to make 6 of them. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to make 6 of these movies. I know, it would be a lot easier to make 3, but it would also be a lot worse to make 3. And I don't think any of us want a repeat of the whole FNaF world situation. So, please, Scott, I beg you, please, do this right. Take the time and the patience to make 6 movies instead of just trying to cram it all into 3. And please, make them nice, long movies so that they can take the appropriate amount of time that they need to tell these stories. Okay? Think about, I'm a huge FNaF 4 fan, okay? That was an amazing story on its own. If there were no other Five Nights at Freddy's games and FNaF 4 was the only one, it would still be an amazing story. Because it was just so well told and well contained. So a FNaF 4 movie, I'd kill for that. That would be an insanely good movie. FNAF's sister location? Just imagine that. The sheer genius that would be a sister location movie with how shiny and sci-fi-y that game is. Imagine the kind of sci-fi movie you could make out of sister location. That would be a masterpiece. And then FNaF 6, which will probably, obviously you can't title it Pizzeria Simulator because that doesn't make sense when it's a movie to call it that. Whatever you end up calling the FNaF 6 movie, you know? A conclusion to everything. That really tells us who exactly was it that opened that franchise location? And why did they do it? But more importantly, that gives us that ending cutscene in cinematic form. Please, if you're going to do this movie series, Mr. Scott Cawthon, which obviously you are, we're 2 entries in, please, do it right. Do not try to cram all of this into 3 movies. I know I've said that a million times, but I really just can't stress it enough. It is a bad, bad idea to try to cram this into 3 movies. The biggest problem with this movie is that it was too short. It felt like not that you were trying to do too much. I like that you put everything in the movie that you did. It just needed to be longer. You needed to spend more time on it.
You needed to give all of the different things that you crammed in more time to develop.
More room to breathe, right?
Like, you could have easily developed a lot of those things a bit more if you were just comfortable enough to tack on, like, even just an extra half hour.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So please make these movies longer and make more than 3 of them, because if you want to tell this story and you want to tell the whole story and you want it to be done properly and done right, and you want us fans to, you know, have that that we've waited so long and so desperately for, you cannot cram it into 3 entries. It just won't fit. It certainly won't fit comfortably, but there's a chance it won't fit at all. Please take the time, plan for 2 trilogies and not for 1. I think it's obvious that these movies are going to succeed, you know, financially. You don't have to worry about that. Do we have any further thoughts? You want to talk about that post-credit scene or anything? You want to talk about Henry's little voice message?
Yeah, might as well.
You mentioned that it sounded like he got at the end there. I didn't pay attention.
Because basically, it wasn't a post-credit scene. It was just a voiceover. There was no scene to it, and it was Henry leaving a recording for Mike Schmidt. He is, in fact, Henry Emily. He used to be William's business partner, letting him know that he still has some of his old tools to track the toy animatronics. In doing so, he can tell it seems like he's trying to say he can tell that the marionette is still active, but as he's trying to convey that, I heard you hear a commotion going on in the background, and he seems to get a lot more panicked than he already was. And as he continues trying to deliver the message, you know, commotion occurs right at his position, and the recording cuts out. At least to me, that heavily reads as he was actively attacked.
I don't know. I think that could be a number of things. Could be Lefty. The thing is, I cannot imagine a FNaF 6 movie working without Henry, obviously, and there needs to be a FNaF 6 movie. So I think that, I do think there are a numerous amount of ways you could explain that away. I also think it's kind of a plot twist in FNaF 6, the game, when you find out Henry's behind it all, and that cutscene starts, right? So I think it would make sense for it to be a plot twist in the movie that he's still alive. You know, you think he died, but it turns out he was behind the scenes controlling things. Maybe he captured the puppet with Lefty, or whatever it may be, right? Hi, yet again I come to you while editing this to mention something I forgot to while we were recording, which is that he could have also just been attacked and not died. That is very possible. He could have just been attacked and escaped or lived or whatever. Vanessa gets attacked in this movie and lives, so I don't see why it wouldn't be possible for the same thing to happen with Henry. Sorry for the interruption. There's a bunch of ways. Scott, don't think you wrote yourself into a corner here, okay? You can explain it away. Trust me. I don't know. I think it would be really narratively unsatisfying if you died there, considering the really minimal amount of screen time that he had. Then there was the other post-credit scene, you know, the one setting up Fazbear Frights, which I remember, your first reaction to that was, holy crap, how did he decay that fast? It's only been like a year since the first movie, to which I said, well, you know, the game synopsis says 30 years later. We technically don't know whether the time period of that cutscene, or that, keep calling it a cutscene, whether the time period of that post-credit scene is the same time period as the rest of the movie. Yeah. So, by the same token, it could just mean 30 years since the restaurant closed, or 30 years since it opened, or whatever. We don't know what it means. Maybe they're just doing it different in the movie, regardless of what it means. Could be any number of those things. I liked the movie a lot. It's already grown on me a lot since leaving the theater. I'm already itching to watch it again. Wouldn't have minded going in for round 2, as a matter of fact. It's already been 2 hours since the movie ended. And the time it's been since the movie ended, we could have watched it a second time. Crazy. I'm already at the point where the fact that the movie underwhelmed me a little bit has completely worn off, and right now I'm just thinking, I loved that movie. I loved that movie. I can't wait to see it again. That doesn't mean it was perfect. I still stand by what I said before. But I loved that movie. I'm looking forward to seeing it again tomorrow. I really love that I got to experience the sheer joy of having a Five Nights at Freddy's popcorn bucket. This is the type of cool thing that I feel like usually wouldn't happen in my personal local area, and I don't know, I just feel like a kid again with my little FNaF popcorn bucket. I don't know. I'm already at the point where the movie has grown on me tremendously since we left the theater, and that's just from thinking about it after it finished. So you know what? Really good job to everyone involved. Really good movie. I hope everyone goes and sees it. But I hope that this video that we're putting together, I really hope it makes it to Scott and the really good folks at Blumhouse take away 2 important things, okay? These 2 really important things. Make these movies longer. They need to be longer, okay? Don't be afraid to make slightly longer movies. It's not that you put too much in the movie, it's just that it needed more time. And then second of all, do not make only 3 of these movies. Make 6 of these movies. You want to tell this story, you want to tell it right, you want the fans to be happy, make 6, not 3. I know, big commitment. But it's Five Nights at Freddy's. It's not like it's going to fail at the box office, fellas. All of these games will make fantastic movies. They really will. So please, please, Scott, consider this a heart-to-heart if you're seeing this from somebody who's looked up to you since I was 12. Please, for the love of our Lord Jesus, our shared Lord Jesus, make 6 of these movies. Don't stop at 3 of them. You cannot comfortably fit this story into 3 entries. You couldn't do it with the games, right? That's why you made more of them. The 3rd game was supposed to be the last one, and that didn't work out because it wasn't satisfying for anyone. And the exact same thing is going to happen with the movies if you try to cram it all into 3 movies. That is our humble request as FNaF fans. He's the silent type, but he agrees.
You made 6 games of lore, make 6 movies of them.
Well, technically he made 7, but Ultimate Custom Night really does not constitute a whole film. But the other ones do. Forest, Sister Location, and Pizza Sim all have enough to be full-length movies. Ultimate Custom Night could maybe substantiate a 5-minute short film. I think you get the point pretty quickly. You could argue that Daco's winning run is a 5-minute short film. An emotional one. Alright. Let's wrap this up. I am really...
yeah, it was emotional, alright.
So...
that boy broke down.
Even for how flawed we agreed it was, would you say that you loved that movie? Or,
yeah.
Yeah?
I'd say...
Has it grown on you too since we left the theater?
I'd say it was worth the money we spent on it.
Even the money we spent on these popcorn buckets, which was more than the tickets, by the way.
Yeah. These buckets are going to be worth it. Doesn't mean I don't have regret.
Would you like me to pay you for my popcorn bucket? Would you like me to remunerate you for mine?
If you're okay with it, yes, that would be appreciated. Because, dear God, these things were expensive.
You got it, buddy.
These things were expensive.
For all of our criticisms of that movie that we had coming out of it, and you know, all the wonderful discussion that we had walking home from it, in the end, you know, I am, even with all that, I'm really glad we went to see that. I had a fantastic time watching it. I'm already just absolutely itching, excited, desperate to see it again tomorrow. So I'm really looking forward to that already. It's less than 24 hours until I see that movie again.
And you know what? I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
I sure will. You better believe it, brother. Thank you so much. Buying me a bucket even though I paid you back. You didn't know I was going to do that. And you still bought me the bucket. I really appreciate that. Because I love that bucket so much already. It's like my new child. It's at least on Wii U status for me already. Yeah. This is what I'm really trying to say. Just had a really great time tonight. Thank you. Wouldn't have had as great a time, nearly as great a time without you. So, thank you very much. And you have no idea how happy I am to have this stupid bucket. Seriously, thank you so much for getting it. You know what? One day, unironically, I'm probably going to, like, store my firstborn's crayons in this or something, you know? When I was a kid, I had a big can like this, a big bucket like this, that I kept crayons and, like, markers and drawing stuff in. And my kid's going to have this bucket as that, and one day he's going to look at me and he's going to say, "What's a Five Nights at Freddy's 2?" And I'm going to say, "Son, it all started with a really scary beaver. It all started with a really uncanny beaver." Really happy that I have you around, buddy. Thank you.
I'm going to go home, collapse, and I will probably be sleeping in late tomorrow.
All right. Well, you enjoy that. I'm going to go ahead and buy these tickets now for me and my young friend.
Alright. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice night, and
I sure
you have
will.
a good viewing tomorrow.
I'm already so stoked for it. Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Mind blown. Holy crap. Hello there. do forgive that I'm dressed down. Colin went home a while ago. I just spent a long time editing the video, and I just had like 2 more things I wanted to say, get off my chest, or else it's going to nag at me. And these are more specific criticisms of 2 things in the film that bothered me. The first one is, when Mike is in the office, why does he track Freddy first? Abby talks about Chica so much in this movie that if he had a brainstem, he would know to immediately look for Chica. I understand, you know, the plot needs to happen, which is why he goes for Freddy first. I just think it doesn't make sense that even if he was paying a little bit of attention, I mean, she mentions Chica every single time she talks about what happened in the last movie. That's always her go-to. And she even builds a miniature Chica. There's no way he realistically wouldn't know to go for Chica first, that's the one Abby's probably going to be with. So that felt like a plot hole to me, that he was like, we don't know which one she's with. Yes, you do, dingus. If you're paying attention, you would easily know. But then that got me to thinking about the scene where Toy Freddy actually was there at the Faz Fest, and it got me thinking, you know, this sort of ties back into the whole they didn't spend enough time on stuff thing. It's just, the toy animatronics, I feel, they were hyped up so much in the marketing for this movie, but they barely did anything. In a way, I'm glad that there wasn't such a grisly, you know, amount of killings in this movie, because I'm not really a horror person, and who wants to see an innocent person die? Not me. But it is kind of hard to see them as threatening when they barely do anything dangerous. And like I said, I just feel like there's so much more you could have done if you just took everything and gave it more time. All of the animatronics speak, but barely at all. Chica speaks the most out of all of them, so Kellen and Matthew being added in there just feels a little tacked on. And when I think about Freddy specifically, I'm pretty sure Freddy had like 1 line in this whole movie. 1 very short line. And even at that, it was a pretty cheesy line. The toy animatronics, they die so fast in this movie after not really doing much. And look, I like the story this movie's telling. I really, really do. I can't stress that enough. The story of this movie, incredible. I loved it. It just needed to be fleshed out a lot more. It makes sense to put the marionette center stage and have, you know, that be the most important thing, because of course it does. She's a key character to the franchise. But for goodness sake, Toy Freddy is on the poster of this movie. He's on every poster of this movie. He's a toy you can buy for this movie. And he is barely in it. He barely does anything in it. The Withers, who are also barely in it, do more than he does. This is part of why I felt so, you know, underwhelmed, as I kept saying. It's just because I felt like just the animatronics were not in it enough. They didn't do enough. That was the biggest thing for me. You didn't see enough of the animatronic. I'd say Toy Chica was the only one that got a satisfactory amount of screen time without feeling completely rushed. As a last footnote, I just want to throw this in. I loved all the UCM references. That was great, and really well done in a way that didn't feel forced. There are a lot of references in this movie to the last movie, and almost all of those feel really shoehorned in a way that's not pleasant. I kind of got sick of that. But then on the contrary, there are a lot of references to Ultimate Custom Night's voice lines in this movie, and all of those, on the contrary, felt really natural and really well done. It's a weird contrast. Anyways, I just thought I'd throw those in because it'll eat away at me if I didn't mention it. I know this is already way too long that we've been talking about this, but look, man, it's a really important movie to me. I waited a long time. And let me tell you, okay, I find it really interesting. These are not from the movie. This is Scott's artwork. I noticed it before we even went into the theater. Listen, I would recognize those jagged 3DS Max edges anywhere, okay? This is not key art from the movie. This is key art from the games. Those are just Scott's models. And I find that really, really cool. I just think that's so awesome. Such a cool popcorn bucket. I already feel nostalgic about this popcorn bucket, and I've had it for like a few hours. Anyways, go see Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Please. It is a good movie. You can tell everyone who worked on it cared tremendously. Just please, you guys, next movie, please don't be afraid to give everything a lot more screen time. Please do not be afraid to make a 2-hour movie. And most importantly, please do not try to cram all of Five Nights at Freddy's into 3 movies. Please, for the love of the Lord, don't do it. I don't mean to, like, tell you your business, but it's not going to go well. It's just not going to go well. every trilogy that has ever failed on the third entry failed for the same reason, and it's because the third movie tries to do too much. We are heading in that direction with Five Nights at Freddy's, and I would like to be a benevolent messenger to help you avoid that as somebody who cares a lot. So yeah, anyways, unlikely, I know, that Mr. Coffin, that you are watching this, but on the off chance that you just happen to be, please take that as a heart-to-heart from me, as a very long time fan of this series. And that's it.